The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Our podcast for Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. This segment's brought to you by CalderoLab.com and just CalderoLab.com. Use promo code 1420LAB at CalderoLab.com and get 20% off the best in men's skincare to protect yourself and from the sun's rays and get rid of those fine lines, wrinkles, and bags under the eyes with CalderoLab.com. Dave, the hardest 3 words, and no matter who you are, whatever part of your life you might be in, whether it be an employer, an employee, a husband, a wife, a son, daughter, whatever it might be throughout the world, an umpire, which I am, the hardest 3 words in the world to say and to actually mean it are "I was wrong." And it happens in baseball. There's 30 teams. In hockey, there's 32. In football, there's 32. In basketball, there's 198. Who gives a fuck? But there are more often than not an owner, or not an owner, a GM, a coach, whatever it's got to be, that has to utter those 3 words 1,000 times. I was wrong.
It does happen all the time, it seems to me that, especially for general managers in any sport, when the clock is ticking on your deal and like, fuck, if we don't make the playoffs, I am fired. So now you no longer have the best interest of the franchise at your heart. You're trying to save your job, and you're trying to save your job now by you're trying to save your job by not trading Shohei Ohtani and actually now giving up your 2 best prospects in your system to make
Lucas Giolito and the other guy. Yeah.
To do what? Are you then now Angels of Anaheim? Are you now better than the Astros? Are you now better than the Jays? Are you better than the Orioles? Are you better than the Rays? I don't think so. And you're 6 games back. How the fuck do you sell that to a fan base? How the fuck do you sell that to a fan base?
Well,
like I would be pissed if I was an Angel fan right now, tell you the truth.
Well, that's a tough one, because you don't want to trade what possibly could be the greatest player in baseball history away and get some guy who might not pan out, right? Or you might get a guy who, because prospects just prospects, right? There's guys who play baseball a little bit. So you don't want to be that guy who trade away that guy, and then you always be what if. And I hear exactly what you're saying. I'd be a little bit pissed too, but it's a double-edged sword in that situation. But man, oh man, to go into those situations, say, yeah, fuck, we didn't quite do it again this year. Can I have my job for another year? Can you spend another $185 million on a team that we might do okay next year?
It's funny. I keep giving props to the Barnburner podcast out of Calgary here, and they had another long form 3-part interview with Matt Stajan, who was one of the pieces coming back from Toronto in the Dion Phaneuf trade.
Dion Phaneuf makes his mom carry his hockey bag.
And his wife picks out his bow tie.
As per Sticky Gray in Alberta, but whatever.
But nonetheless, Stajan was talking to this is a good team. This is a good team. And
when he got traded there.
Yeah, when he got traded there, and he was excited for it because Toronto was a bit in the doldrums, and they needed. It was what it was. It was a hockey trade, and Phaneuf was obviously just too much of a douche to be hanging around in Calgary, and he wasn't listening to Daryl anymore, and Daryl was the GM. But after his 2nd or 3rd year, it was Jim Playfair, because Iggy was on that team. Mark
Jimmy
Giordano
Playfair.
And
Portland Winterhawks alum Jimmy Playfair.
Robin Regeer was there. Kiprusoff was still in that, and then Playfair one day, him and Stajan were like, they were just talking like coach and player, and He's like, how the fuck are we this bad? Like, we're not that bad on paper. Like, this should fucking work. And Daryl Sutter was on the GM, and in typical Daryl fashion, like, we're only one piece away. So we're only one piece away. So they're getting older and older. And then he told another story about like his 4th or 5th year in camp. And Adrian O'Coin said to him, like at the rookie camp or whatever, like they're watching, goes, I don't see one good guy out here. So not only are you trading prospects for over the hill players, you're not drafting anybody. You're drafting rough and tough and tumble and that kind
Western
of player.
Hockey League.
Yeah, and then like,
He was drafted in 1983 Leopard Broncos.
Yes, exactly.
Really?
And then like Stacey's like, and you look here and it's like, oh fuck, man, we're not getting better. And then you trade Iggy, and Kipper apparently said like, I'm not coming back for the last year, because they, like, to a man, like to listen to these guys, to listen to Robin Regehr and stage and talk about Mike Keenan as a coach, biggest joke ever. He goes, anyone could have fucking done that. Like, we should have coached ourselves. And Bob Hartley was such a see you next Tuesday. Everybody hated him. And then Kipper said, like, he had 1 year left for $1 million. He goes, I ain't fucking coming back for that. Get fucked.
It's funny you talk about how the Flames went. Like, Keenan was past his prime a little bit there. I can't remember what even year that was. 2008, I think it was, when he was rolled in there. But when my buddy Harry York, I had him on one of the solo podcasts I did with him back there, back before Christmas there. It's Christmas. It's fucking July. So like last year, I guess, when I was talking with Harry, and he said he loved Keenan. He said he loved him in St. Louis. That was in 1996 or 97. He said he loved Keenan. He said he let me play. He goes, I shouldn't have been in the league and everything else, but he let me play, and I went out and I did what I had to do, and night in, night out. He wasn't a superstar, so maybe was that one of those things where Keenan got the most out of certain guys, but the superstars were like, fuck you, I'm not doing that.
Well, like, and how much?
You know what I mean? Like, like, it's one of those things. Like,
I hear what you're saying, but Keenan didn't win a thing in St. Louis, right?
He didn't. But he was only 2 or 3 years removed from the Stanley Cup in with the Rangers. Then he went to St. Louis, and like Harry York.
No, he was in St. Louis before the Rangers.
No,
he was
afterwards.
In St. Louis. No. He was in St. Louis, then he went to Philly, and then he went to the Rangers.
Well, so maybe he was still with the Rangers when Harry played for him. But Harry said he loved them. Because he goes, I worked hard, I played hard, I wasn't making fuck all, I made $500,000 a year, whatever it was. So Harry said he loved him, but it was like maybe it's the upper echelon guys who pushed old, like Keenan, right? But maybe he's one of those, like the upper echelon guys just tuned him out, right? Maybe. I don't know.
And then if you need a strong personality where you're in lockstep with the head coach, like Messier would have been with the Rangers. And like, that Rangers team was stacked, right? They had Messier.
They were the Oilers.
And they were, yeah.
That 94 team was the Oilers.
Oilers alumni and Mike Richter, right? That's exactly what they were.
Really? It comes down to it.
And they won, and they deserved to win. They were the best team that year. And so who's to say that, like, so I guess, he was John Muckler light, I guess. But John Muckler.
Yeah. Dave, what would be harder for a GM, because they make the final decision to an extent. What would be harder? Let's just talk national. Well, let's talk all sports. Draft day or free agent signings? Because there's a lot of I was wrong moments in those, no matter what.
Well, and I'm going to put a third day, trade deadline day, right?
Yeah.
Like, are we fucking or walking, or are we going to stay pat? And then I think draft day has actually the most impact on a franchise going forward, right? If you hit
top
one
10
of those
picks, top 5 picks, maybe.
Yeah,
not rounds, but top 5 to 10 guys who get drafted.
If you can find a third rounder that has a 10-year career, that's a win. And those are guys that you need on your team, because then, that's a guy you don't have to pay for in free agent market. The trade deadline is, now that's a tricky one. and draft day, and then what was the other one? I
Free
put in
agent
draft day
signings.
and free agent signings. Free agent signings, like I would never give in hockey right now. I would never give anyone more than a 5-year, never, unless it's like Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon or someone like that. But like Toronto, what they're dealing with Nylander and Matthews
What's a
and
fucking
Marner.
mess again?
Oh, it's what a mess! I wouldn't sign any one of those motherfuckers for more than 3 years.
Yeah.
The salary cap's going up. I don't fucking care. Okay, let's sign you for a 3-year deal at the same money you're making, and then we'll revisit when the salary cap goes up. Because you know what? One playoff win in your career is not really doing it for me for $12 million a year. Like, oh, you guys can go circle jerk each other off and tell each other how good you are, and
Tim Hortons commercials you want to have and everything else.
and fire another coach. Yeah, get another coach.
Another coach, another GM, another coach, another GM, and everything else. Like you talk about, Dave. You were saying how the draft is it's hard. I mean, finding prospects. I like what Barry Trotz said with Nashville this year. He went and told his scouting staff, he goes, "Go find me a stud, because I will find, like, I'm the GM. I've been around hockey forever. Go and find me a stud player out of the woodwork. Somebody's going to be a game changer, because I'll find us the third line winger who's in the league for 10 years. I'll find him myself. Like, I'll go and trade for that guy.
Yeah,
go and be an actual scout and find me some talent."
Tell me why. Tell me why. Does he play with an edge? Does he just have to learn how to skate a little bit? Does he just have to learn how to play the game a little bit? Because that's another thing that Stajan said, because he's coaching now for the Hitmen, and he says, "Oh, these young kids, the skill level is unbelievable. These kids don't know how to fucking play hockey. We got to teach them how to play hockey. Find me the kid that knows how to play hockey
right now. Then I'll make him better.
Yeah,
and then we can work on it. I will give him $4 million. He already knows how to play the game. When you get to the professional level, yes, you're going to learn no matter what. When you get to the NHL level, we shouldn't be teaching anymore. Like, we shouldn't be teaching. I shouldn't have to teach you how to back check, forecheck, paycheck. That shouldn't be a thing anymore.
Nope.
And you look at how highly skilled these guys are, and it's in baseball as well. Yeah, launch angle and all. Analytics have killed sports, in my opinion. In hockey and baseball, I'm around those a lot. Like, I'm around baseball a lot, and the launch angle and things, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, see ball, hit ball, man. Well, that's a 2-seamer and a 4-seamer and this, but you still fucking missed it.
Well, the same with social media, right? In like NBA, like we're all watching highlights, and we're watching a Michigan goal, and we're watching a fucking 400-foot home run in the ninth. We're watching 360 jams. You know what that is? That's one run. That's one goal. That's 2 points. How is that helping? And you're a -5 on the ninth. Yeah. But you got that.
Oh boy, my highlight.
Oh, do you see that? I made it on the highlight reel.
My exit velo is this.
How does that? I hit the ball hard. I hit the ball. It was 112 miles an hour off the bat.
Will it ever go back? Dave, will sports ever go back to a team atmosphere, or has the money gotten so outrageous that unless you win, I mean, winning's obviously been always been the most important thing, and getting a championship, I think. But there's so many kids and so many, they're all kids to us now. There's so many professional athletes now that are so self-absorbed, and they're more worried about their stats and everything else, because of the money's gotten so big that winning is almost become secondary.
What you're saying about Barry Trotz and saying, find me that diamond in the rough, find me that kid that has the it factor. Draft me a kid that wants to win, not a kid that wants to get paid. Because there's a big difference between those things, right? Because at the end of the day, as a general manager, you're getting paid, you're getting your contract renewed if your team wins. So many of these players in professional sports right now want to get paid. We talked about it ad nauseum about the quarterbacks in the NFL. The NBA is all about guys wanting to get paid. And it's professional sports, and like you do want to get paid. But as a franchise, as a fan base, I want a kid here who wants to win. And then those kids are, you see them when you see them, like that what is his name? That came from the Blues that went to the Leafs this year, O'Reilly.
O'Reilly.
Yeah, he wants to win, and he's a difference maker. Bergeron, who just retired.
What a player!
What a player!
You know, I got my Boston Sucks cock shirt T-shirt on. I'm not a Bruin apologist by any means, but that Bergeron was a player. He was so good.
When someone
classy on, and even and having to shut, I can't imagine it was easy telling Marchand to shut up, but they had a good dynamic there and everything else. Patrice Bergeron is he's Hall of Fame. Like, they should put him in tomorrow. He was a hell of a player.
That kid, well, he's not a kid. He just retired from the NHL after 19 season.
Still younger than me and you, but yeah, so he's a kid, I guess. But yeah.
And it's a team I don't like cheering for. I don't want Boston to win a game ever. But that guy can play on my team anytime. He was such a class act.
Probably took pay cuts to stay there because they had a chance of winning every year and everything else. Got his one cup, I think, in 2011 against Vancouver there. Yeah.
Yeah.
World Juniors and Olympic gold medals and on it goes. And you never heard ill will about the guy.
No, not a word. You won't find anybody. And then I actually read the long form letter he put out on social media. Like, even his retirement letter almost brought me to tears. What a class act. And, draft me that guy. I get it. I think he was a second rounder, actually. I don't think he was in the first round. But find me a kid that wants to win. Find me a kid that wants to win.
I think he was on that World Junior team in 03
with Crosby,
with Crosby and Phaneuf and in North Dakota. Yeah. Just, those kind of guys they're few and far between. And I don't know. Like, is sports broken? Yeah. Is it different than it was than when we grew up with it? Yeah, it is 100%. But you'd like to go back in a time machine and see how it was in 1950 and see what they were bitching about compared to what 1980 and then 2010 and the like. What it was, the differences is. I just don't see the wanting to win. When they win, it's great. But it seems to me when they lose, you're like, try again next year.
Yeah,
try again tomorrow or whatever.
You gotta find someone who just has a desire to win and just wants to win, and then has the skill. And I believe Sid Crosby has that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he wants to win, and you can't win them all. I don't think every
I'm not
player
suggesting
wants to
you
win.
smash your stick over the ice or you're throwing bats in the fucking in the dressing room like the guy from Bull Durham did after every loss, but it just seems that you don't see the lack of a better term, the anger when a guy loses anymore. And I also think like in baseball, let's just talk baseball for half a second, with the way the rules are now, and you can't argue with this, and there's pitch, not pitch clock, but there's instant replay, and as soon as you argue instant replay, you're out of the game. Having a Billy Martin out there arguing a play, or Lou Piniella arguing a play, that added to the emotion of the game. And now that that's gone, it takes away from it a little bit. A lot of it, not even a little bit, a lot of it.
Yeah. I always kind of admire the managers, like Lou Piniella was one of them, who treat, not Lou Piniella, Joe Torre was one of them, like, treat your players as professionals and expect likewise, and then let's go ahead and we don't have to get fucking heated. Whereas Lou Piniella was the exact opposite, right? He got so heated. Emotion is a good part of sports, and it's needed sometimes. And I heard this on a podcast today about the Tampa Rays collapse. Apparently, there's a little bit of rift in the clubhouse between Xander Bogart and Rosarina.
Wouldn't be Bogarts. Bogarts is in San Diego, but
who's the guy that got benched? It's a name like that. For not hustling on a play.
I can't remember. I know you're talking about.
But nonetheless, yeah. And then since that, they've literally been 500. Yeah, and like I'm guessing Aaron from Brutally Honest is just doing a jig right now that his boys are in first place.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're going to hold on, but
because Baltimore's good. Baltimore's very good.
Because now emotion is part of Tampa Bay, which that's not a Tampa Bay thing. But if you got guys walking around the locker room that actually physically hate each other,
You ain't winning.
you ain't winning because everybody's just tense. Is like, oh fuck, like.
And that was the thing about, like, you look at those Oilers teams like this. We're talking a lot tonight there for some reason, even though we saw each other yesterday. But you look at those, like Glenn Sather's considered this fucking great hockey mind. I mean, I don't consider that way. And you and people consider Joe Torre this great baseball mind. And because I'm a Yankee guy, obviously, and I have his jersey over here. But and Pat Riley with the Lakers, they had all this talent, right? There'd be all these talented guys that win championships, right? The thing with those managers and coaches, they first need to control the players and get them all feeling like they're important, right? Because you have all these egos. They're managing egos more than managing the team at that point. Because when you're supposed to win, that's got to be really hard, like really hard. Because I've said it for years. I mean, it's been 40 years since the Oilers won a cup, whatever it's been. But I've always said I could have been the coach for the Oilers and won a Stanley Cup. Open the gate, you got Gretzky, Messier, Curry, and on Glenn Anderson, Hall of Famers, and then you had if Grant Fuhr pulled up a stinker, Andy Moog plays, right? So who was a very a great goaltender.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can finish the game.
And then you know what? Then let's pull Grant Fuhr. We'll put the six guy out there, and it's Paul Coffey on the back end, right? So no matter what, there was Hall of Famers for Sather. You look at what Joe Torre had with the Yankees, and you look at what Pat Riley had with the Lakers. Yeah, it's anybody could have done it, but you still have to manage these egos, and pushing these guys down to a level to be part of a team. I don't think that happens anymore. I don't.
I 100% agree, because even some how many times is your best player, is he a good clubhouse guy? Do all the other players, they respect his talent, but do they want to hang out with him? Do they want to do better for him because he's the guy in the clubhouse telling the jokes and like say, hey, let's go out here for a pint after BP today, yeah. and that kind of thing. That St. Louis Blues club won the Stanley Cup
because of Gloria, because of one song. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Because the core went out and had a time. They went
New Year's Day, got hammered up watching college football bowl games, got hammered up at some fucking bar in downtown St. Louis or wherever it was, and Gloria came on, and that was the sounding call.
Yep, and it was obviously leaders, and everybody jumped in, and then once you start playing for each other, the sum is greater than the parts. And whoever would have thunk that team at that point was going to win the Stanley Cup, and good for them, because that's a team I like to see win. A team that just bonds and it's great, and everybody finds their little their blind squirrel finds a nut, and then everybody's now all of a sudden all these blind squirrels are finding all these nuts, and now we got our name on the Stanley Cup.
We'll call this quits in half a second, but you think about it. The New York Yankees had won 4 World Series in 5 years. 0-1, tough one, obviously, with Arizona. They traded for the best player in baseball, Alex Rodriguez. Didn't win another one. They only won one more in 2009. And so that means a lot, having that one guy come in the room and just fuck things up.
Well, did he fuck things up, or is that because Paul O'Neill was gone, and that's because Bernie Williams was
exactly.
gone?
So there's those guys, right? Like it's that thing.
You're replacing stats with more stats, but you're not replacing the camaraderie.
The stuff.
Like, oh, fuck.
The stuff matters, man. The stuff matters.
Yeah, and that's sports, and that's team sports, and that's a team anything. That's work. That's life. Right. If you're going about your day to day with people that you actually like hanging out with, all of a sudden your day becomes a little bit better, and you don't want to let other people down.
How many cups would the Oilers have won if Pocklington wasn't forced? If Gretzky would have said no to the trade, how many cups would the Oilers have won? Because they got 4 with Gretzky, 5, and then the 5th with Messier. What's your thoughts? Because that they were a team. They were a good bunch of guys, man. They got along. They got
yeah, the boys on the bus.
Yeah.
And 7 in a row is not impossible. right? They won 5 and 7 years.
Yeah.
In retrospect, on paper they could have won all like 7 in a row. Yeah, they probably should have won 7 in a row, and that's not easy.
Jesus.
That is not easy because they liked each other and they didn't want to let each other down. And Gretzky was a leader on and off the
because he won scoring titles in LA still.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But he didn't have the camaraderie. He wasn't as young, and the team around him wasn't as good. You know, Bernie Nichols and Kelly Rudy ain't no Yari Curry and Grant Fuhrer.
Pumpernickel, Bernie Nichols. Anyways, the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 Beers Sports Talk, and a whole lot more. This segment was brought to you by Caldera Lab and calderalab.com. Use promo code 1420LAB for the best in men's skincare to keep that skin looking fresh and those aging lines off your eyes and everything else. Using promo code 1420LAB. Do you think Gretzky looks better than he did 20 years ago?
I'm thinking he has work done on his face, right? Like,
you think so?
Oh, I'm quite positive. He's
Janet, what's his daughter's name? Penelope? No.
Penelope? No. Paulina. Yeah.
She's a
handsome woman.
She's a handsome woman. Anyways, 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 Beer Sports Talk, and a whole lot more.